I'm Patrick McKessick, the Executive Director for Development and Alumni Relations for the Foundation, working with the School of Law. And we're excited to have all of you join us here today and welcome you. And no pressure to our speaker, but we have people literally from coast to coast today, including multiple regents, Kansas Supreme Court Justice, and several faculty, both current and retired. So I'm sure our speaker can handle this. So I'm going to introduce Interim Dean Jeffrey Jackson from the Washburn University School of Law. Jeff is a dual bod, as we say, and graduate of Washburn School of Business and also the Washburn School of Law in 1992. After a career outside of academia, he joined the Washburn Law faculty in 2005, I want to say, Jeff. Correct me if I'm wrong. And has been part of our faculty ever since. And in his extensive 2 months as dean, he has been really great at getting out and meeting with our alums. And I'm sure you all will enjoy visiting with him today. And with that, Dean Jackson, take us away.
Thank you, Patrick. Hi, everybody. First off, I want to start out by saying how honored and excited I am that I get to be dean of this law school, because obviously I really, really like it. And I think I can do some good things here, which is part of what we're going to be talking about today. So why don't we go ahead? I'll get started with the slideshow. And if you guys have questions at all during the presentation, you can throw them in the chat or throw your hand up and I'll try and get to them. But anyway, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this, because the one big thing I want to say to everybody listening, right? This is your law school, right? So I'm excited to hear from you. All right, so first big thing, new building, which we were hoping to be able to get in for the spring semester. But as it turned out, whoops, wait a minute, we can't. The culprit here, if you can see the cursor, are these banks of windows here, which one are going to be an incredible source of light to the new building. It's going to make it a wonderful thing. The downside is it turns out they're back ordered. And what that means is the time frame for delivery is going to push us back past what would be the opening of the spring semester. So unfortunately, we're going to have to do the spring semester in the building that I am in now. And I feel sorry for our 3L class, who've kind of got the short end of the stick through all of this, because they started in the pandemic and now they don't get to spend the semester in the new building, but we will make it up to them. And I'm working on planning some things to get them into the new building and connected with everything as it goes. So right now, the schedule is that we will take possession of the building. It will probably actually be early March. And we're going to try and work things out from there. And so I think we'll be moving in time for summer classes. If you haven't actually seen the new building, even in its incomplete state, it is beautiful. And I'm very excited about things that we're going to be able to do there and the way that we teach law now. So we're kind of disappointed, but we're excited to be able to inhabit it. It'll come. All right, let's talk about fun stuff. Graduation. In May, we graduated a class of 102 with 3 LLM students, which gave us a total class of 114. As far as employment information, we haven't got great numbers on this as far as accuracy, because it's from the last employment survey that was toward the end of May with some updates over the summer. We had basically 113 for purposes of employment. The vast majority are finding employment, 77 and 36, and we're going to be getting new numbers as our development office does a survey after the bar. We kind of didn't contact them over the summer because we knew that people were studying for the bar. The interesting thing I think here is, where do they end up going? And you'll see that by far the most of our people end up going into a law firm, public interest in government coming in second. We do have people on judicial clerkships, but this is kind of affirming exactly what we've always thought, which is most of our people end up going out and being lawyers, being employed in law firms. I thought the other interesting thing is, here's the data of what kind of law firms they're going in. We don't have very many people going out and doing solo. We did have 2 from this past class, but they were both mid-career students who had some pretty good business acumen. By far, the biggest category here is firms that are smaller, which would make sense since most of our people do end up in Kansas on the 2 to 10 attorneys. But we do have people, as you can see here, in the over 100 category. We've got people going into some pretty large firms, and in fact, 2 people in the 501 plus attorney firm. So we're making a lot of inroads into a lot of firms that we normally have not sent people to in the past. And part of that is we've instituted an initiative to help identify and connect students with kind of the big law firms. And we've been very successful in getting them to actually do things like resume drops for our on-campus recruiting. And so that's one of the things where I think we've really expanded the footprint of the kinds of places that Washburn Law grads go to. Is everybody seeing the slides okay? We've got one person I know in the chat who isn't, but all right. Moving on. For the fall class. Now, in the fall, we've enrolled 74 1L students, and you might think that's a little small. The idea is our target is basically these days, with the statistics that we try and compile, our target is for about a 1L class of about 80 students, with a J section class that starts in January of 20 students. So we weren't too far off on this, maybe a little under what we wanted, but this is about where we want to be, because we have made a concentrated push to keep statistics of the entering class in a manner that will let us climb up the rankings. So we end up with 74 1Ls, 8 LLM students, which is by far the biggest we've enrolled. They come from such places as the Republic of Georgia, where we have an agreement, Nepal, where we also have an agreement with certain recruiters, and for the first time this fall, from Nigeria, where we've kind of established a presence mostly by word of mouth. So we've got a pretty big LLM contingent, and we actually have quite a number of them in the queue. Visa problems have just pushed them back to the point where they'll be enrolling in January. So we should have a class, again, that size, enrolling in January. We've got a couple transfer students. So basically our total class size for the entering class is 84 at this point. So where do they come from? Well, 56%, as is kind of usual, have come from Kansas. 44% come from 13 different states outside of Kansas. We got 42 different undergraduate institutions represented. This year, K-State tied Washburn for the most students that they're sending us with 14 students each. All right, does anybody have any questions on any of this before I go farther? And if not, there will be question and answer time at the end. So as you may have heard, it's been in the news, this was a banner year for diversity at Washburn Law because 38% of the 1L class self-identified as diverse. 43% of the entire entering class is diverse if we include
The building's been delayed.
all of our LLM students. So this is a marked increase from what our average has been, which is during the last decade, we've had about a 16% diversity mark. So this is something that the law school's been working on for a number of years. And I'd like to say that it's entirely because of our initiatives. I don't know that that's true. We have been working pretty hard on it, and I know Dean Pratt did in the years before. So we're excited to see what this brings because, as I'm sure all of you know, it's very hard to learn law in an echo chamber. So the more diverse voices we get in the law school, I think the better it is for our students. So we're happy about that. A big and popular program is Third Year Anywhere, which is being directed here by Professor Sean Leisinger and also Professor Craig Martin. Sean is handling the placements that are in Kansas, and Professor Martin is handling our out of Kansas placements for Third Year Anywhere. The past year, we had 27 students who participated in Third Year Anywhere. That number was a little inflated by the fact that a lot of them were people who transferred in from Florida Coastal to do part of the Third Year Anywhere program. But among other things, we did have a number of students from Kansas. So placements included firms and legal employers in Wichita, Pittsburgh, Hayes, Colby, and Kansas City. Out of state placements were Washington, D.C., Cincinnati, Ohio, Jacksonville, and Seattle, Washington. So we had a number of in-state and out-of-state. This year we've got 18 students so far in the fall that are doing their Third Year Anywhere placements. Of those, we've got 12 in Kansas. We've got 6 in other states and 1 foreign country because we have 1 student, as you will see, who's working for the UN Human Rights Agency in Bangkok, Thailand. But also we've got 1 student who's working for Senator Marshall in DC, another in Texas. So we really are placing students in a bunch of really interesting places across the country. And we're placing students in a lot of interesting places in Kansas. So I think Third Year Anywhere is going to continue to be popular. Entering students like having the option to do that, even if they don't eventually end up doing it. And so it's one of those really good programs that I'm very proud of here in the law school. Current rank as far as US News rankings, we are 105. That is the highest ranking we have ever enjoyed since US News began ranking things back in 1988. So what does that mean to be 105? Well, we are tied at this rank with DePaul, LSU, Marquette, and Texas Tech. So if you think about those schools, that's where we're at basically. In the region, we're still behind KU and MU, tied at 67. So the big in-state schools, a lot of that comes from the fact that part of the US News rankings are basically some of it, well, part of it is a popularity contest of have you heard of this law school? And so we don't do as well there, but we do pretty decently in the grand scheme. So we're behind KUMU, Nebraska, behind Oklahoma. We are ahead of schools like Drake, which is 111, UMKC at 114, Tulsa at 118, and Creighton at 139. So we're really punching pretty well for the kind of school that we are. Among other Big 12 schools, and among Big 12 schools, actually, we're ahead of West Virginia's law school. So we're actually in a really good place currently. We're actually hoping, though, that we can move up in the near future. The new law school building, I think, will help us here. Anecdotally, the idea is that new buildings tends to attract students and get you a little bit of a bump there. As far as our specialty rankings, legal writing, our program is now number 15 in the nation, which is up one spot from 16, but we're incredibly proud of that. Our law clinic is ranked 57th in the nation among law schools, which is also very good and is very positive. So we did have some retirements. So in June, retirements were Janet Thompson Jackson, who retired. She came on board the same year that I did in my class. Might surprise you, Merle Duncan, after threatening retirement every year since 1992, has actually retired. So we are incredibly sorry to see him go. He's been a fixture at the law school for so many years. So we're sorry to see him go, but we hope he is enjoying retirement. He does stop by occasionally to see us, so we're happy to see him. And then Mary Matthews, who we have teaching legal writing, retired, and then immediately agreed to come back as an adjunct for a year. So although she's retired, we didn't actually let her out of the building. We just pay her less. So that turns out to be a win-win for everybody. Okay, except her. But thank you, Mary. We love you. Other departures, our former assistant director of academic enrichment, Bar Passage, Blake Klinkner, left us. He is now a tenure track professor at the University of North Dakota. So with our departures, we have brought in some new visiting professors, and we hope to make hires coming up. The new visiting professors, this person you probably recognize, it's Judge Tom Martin, formerly of the United States District Court for the District of Kansas in Wichita. We've brought him on this year as a distinguished lecturer, teaching evidence and federal courts, courses we thought he might know a little something about, to teach, and also to teach Civ Pro 1. He's been here teaching for a week, and it already seems like he's been here forever. He's just an incredible colleague, and we are very lucky to get him. Chelsea Baldwin is our new visiting assistant professor of law and assistant director of academic enrichment and Bar Passage. So she's teaching law in context and multi-state legal analysis. We stole her basically away from Texas Tech. It was very hush-hush. There were secret code words involved. Anyway, we're glad she's here. So we have her to help revitalize our academic enrichment program. And Matthew Reed-Krell, he is a visiting professor teaching alternative dispute resolution, professional responsibility, and Civ Pro 2. He most recently actually taught in the legal program at Vassar. Then Eunice Peters, who is a Washburn graduate, we brought her on to teach legal analysis, research and writing 1 and 2. We needed new faces there because not only am I now in the dean's office, which means I only teach half a schedule, but the associate dean now is, of course, Emily Grant, who also taught legal writing and is now only teaching half a schedule. So we have Eunice Peters in this year as a visitor, and also, Ben Smith, who we plucked most recently from Drake to come in and be a visitor and to teach legal analysis, research and writing 1 and 2. So those are the new faces that we have. And and we're looking to make 3 permanent hires starting this fall. So we'll be back up to full strength so that we can keep having the legal program for which we're famous. So what are we doing going forward? What are the things that I've been doing? And what are the things that we're really focusing on for this year? So the vision statement is, first, we want to consolidate the gains that we have made and strengthen some existing programs. The big one here is Third Year Anywhere. When Carla Pratt started that program and got us working on that, we kind of jumped in quickly, but what we're trying to do now is kind of backfill and make sure that we have enough classes to support that, because the Third Year Anywhere students do take classes online. So we need enough asynchronous online classes to do that. And we need to have enough placements to make that happen. And so we're working very hard on both those initiatives. The other thing I want to do is, we've made great strides with diversity and inclusion in the past 4 years, and I don't want those to fall by the wayside. So we're going to be still devoting resources to continue those diversity and inclusion initiatives as we go. The big thing that I've been working on, another big thing, I guess, they're all big things, but I've been working on, we need to enhance Washburn Law's brand as a teaching-centered, student-focused law school, because that is the thing that brings students to our school, right? You can go a lot of places and get a good legal education. What makes Washburn special? What makes Washburn, what is Washburn's niche in all of this, in the legal landscape? And the thing that frankly makes it a joy to teach here as well is that we are teaching centered, and we are also student focused. We care about our students, we care about teaching our students, we care about those things, and it's something we have always done. We just need to lean in, I think, a little more and promote that brand, because that's our specialty. That's what makes us special. So what I've done so far is we've provided more resources and structure for our professionalism groups. For those of you who don't know what those are, every 1L in the class is put into a group that is a professionalism group. They're generally 5 to 6 students. We give them an upper level student as an advisor, who, from a group of students that we hand select for their leadership, to teach them and to model professionalism as they go through their first semester of law school. And so I've provided some more resources for that. I've helped to structure that. And so it's one of those really important things that we do going forward. Then we want to revitalize the faculty mentor initiative. We've had faculty mentors now for a number of years. But what I've tried to do this year is to talk to those people serving as faculty mentors and to kind of revitalize that program. And I'm providing financial resources for them to do that. Each faculty mentor basically mentors 2 of our professionalism groups. And so I'm providing resources for them to do things like take the students out to dinner or lunch during the semester and talk to them and be more involved. So we're basically leaning into those sorts of things. And then the other thing that I'm really proud of is we've instituted some programming to provide students with a roadmap and checklist. It is basically what I'm calling now, originally, now, the 1L playbook. And it is a playbook that talks to them and tells them what they should be doing week to week as 1Ls to prepare for learning and to get ready for exams and what kinds of things they should be taking advantage of. It also lists all of the different programs that we have and all of the different resources that they can access. So it's basically a 1L playbook that is putting out a new update every week to kind of guide them through that first year of law school. Because one of the things that we have noted is more than ever now, we are having students who are, not only are they the first people in their family to actually go to law school, a lot of them have not really had a contact with a lawyer before. And so for them, this is helping to fill in that gaps. And also for a lot of us, I would have loved to have this sort of thing. It's basically the, what would I have loved to have? Well, that's what we're doing. So that's another thing that I'm very proud of that we have started doing this semester. And then, of course, as soon as we can get into the new law school building, we're going to be capitalizing on its ability to offer this law school experience. One of the things about the new building that I find that I'm really excited about is we can have the way that we structure the classrooms, we can provide 16 different classroom experiences in the new building with different ways that we change the seating. And so we can really cater to the types of classes that we are teaching now, which are less of the big classes, you know, kind of in a row, and more classes that talk about that do innovative and interactive and collaborative experiences. And the new law school building will allow us to capitalize on these things. We're going to invest in recruiting in markets where we can be competitive. West Texas has been a good feeder for us lately. We're going to continue that. For energy law programming, we're going to be delving more into Colorado because for our energy law center, there aren't a lot of competitors. The one main competitor in the Midwest region now for energy law with us is the University of Denver, and they are about twice as expensive at this point as we are. So we're going to look for that and into Colorado for energy law programming. And we're going to focus on that because we give in-state tuition to Colorado students anyway. And then new pathways in Kansas. I have 3+3 negotiations now underway. We have them already with Washburn, obviously, with Baker, and with Fort Hays State. I've got negotiations underway with Wichita State, Pittsburgh State, and Benedictine. And I'm also exploring them with smaller schools in Kansas, as well as Missouri State and some other ones in Missouri, to get the Washburn name out there and to get us in as a feeder school. The one other thing we need to do is to improve bar exam performance. This last time, we've been okay in that regard. The last one was not as good. We had a 69.84% pass rate compared to the state average of 77.78. So I have been, since I became interim dean, I've been working with our people in Bar Pass to kind of figure out where the problems are, and also to figure out how we can shore up and improve our performance in Bar Pass. So we'll fix it. And so that's one of the big things that we're going to be looking at. So how can you help? This is my fundraising priorities and asks, what are the things that are our priorities? Well, we'd like to be around 90 in the US News. That's going to be a pretty big haul, but we're going to try and push toward that. To do that, scholarships, that's always going to be my first ask. It's the first ask of any dean in any position in any law school, right, is always going to be scholarships, because the scholarships allow us to compete for the higher credentialed students. we have wonderful students, and this gets us more of them. So if you think about the many different ways that helps us, well, overall profile of the 1L class ranked by US News, that's what scholarships can improve. Scholarships improve our debt levels because they help people afford the college education. Also bar passage, also employment opportunities. So really all of those things are things that we really need scholarships to do. So that's one of my big asks. The second thing, the fundraising support priority this year is Law Clinic. Something that I did not actually know until I became dean is the Washburn Law Clinic is the second largest provider of free civil legal services in Kansas. And each year we have over 30 upper level students who participate in this. We are continually oversubscribed in the Law Clinic. So it is a high priority for us. They work on a bunch of different things and practice in not only federal court, state court, municipal court, and administrative agencies. And they also do know your rights presentations to community members who need legal information. So this year we're going to be raising funds as a priority to help establish endowed professorships in the clinic and to fund our existing clinic operations so that more students have a chance to participate. For those of you who were in Law Clinic, you know how important it is. It is one of the great ways in which we give back to our community. And so I'm excited to raise money to help for that. All right, well, that's the end of my presentation. So questions, comments, anything that you'd like me to know? Again, as I say, we really do, in fact, this is your law school and I value your input. Question from the chat, have our scholarships levels dropped in recent years? There was a time when we had 30% getting full or partials. No, actually, our scholarship levels have in fact increased a little bit. And we have been able to use those scholarships to make the gains that we have been doing. And I think that's a tribute to our alums who are helping to fund these scholarships. It's just something I'm always going to be asking you for more. As of right now, we don't have we have a statistic. I think our statistics on people who get at least a full or partial scholarship are now upwards of 60% of students who do that. So we've been able to compete really well. And I think that's been a factor in why our US News ranking has actually increased to the level that it has. It's one of those things that we always need to continue. All right, other stuff.
Dean Jackson, Mike Kuckelman here.
Hey.
I have a question, slide 27, which had to do with bar passage rate. I don't mean to keep pounding on this drum.
Yeah.
It's obviously a critical issue from my perspective that the law school address this issue head on and not gloss over it. We had a terrible pass rate last year. I see the slide has been updated to remove KU, their pass rate, because KU had a much better pass rate than the state average. We had much worse.
That is correct.
I still am encouraging, I know you just took over the reins, so you've inherited this, but I would still encourage, can we get some kind of a metric so that we all a year from now know what's going to happen? For example, can we say that in a year, the pass rate at Washburn Law will be equal to or greater than the state average? Or that a year from now, the pass rate will be greater than or equal to the KU pass rate? I just don't want this to slide because I feel like we owe it to our students. They cannot, some of them lose their opportunity at employment if they don't pass the bar exam. And I just think it's a critical issue and that it deserves a lot of attention and anything else that we can do as alumni to help with that issue.
Yeah, and first I want to assure you, we are working on the issue. We did get some new information regarding KU's pass rate. If people don't know, their pass rate was in I think the mid 90s, well, 93% this past time. The information that so it turns out that of the class taking the bar from KU, they lost the bottom 20% of the class to academic dismissal. So it turns out the bottom 20% of KU's class did not actually take a bar exam because they didn't actually graduate from law school. And they didn't set out to attrit 20%. I don't think any law school does that. It's that they have a stricter academic dismissal policy, a more strict one than we do. We tend to, so at KU, if you spend one semester below a 2.0, you're on academic probation that semester, the next semester. And if you don't rise above a 2.0 at that point, you are academically dismissed with no appeal. We follow the same thing, but if in the second semester, if they don't rise above a 2.0, we give them a show cause, which shows where they can tell us why they think they should be allowed to be readmitted. And I will say that during these last years of the pandemic, we were pretty understanding about that. So we did not suffer very much attrition. The downside of doing that is that then, of course, we have those people that we were able to get across the finish line, but then are pretty high risks for the bar. So that's been an issue. And so we're working on trying to find the right balance there, because on the one hand, I don't like the idea of knocking out so many people who may have had a hard time or have been struggling. So there is that issue. On the other hand, I don't know that it does them a lot of good if they make it through law school, but then have trouble finding employment for the bar because they can't pass the bar or have struggled passing the bar. So I think one of the things that we're going to have to do is, if we're going to keep being, if we're going to keep giving them second chances, we need to do a lot to bring in a lot more academic support to help them so that they will be ready to pass the bar. So we're looking at that. We're looking at a couple of other things. The good news is that the university has been willing to help us out on this as well. So I think we're going to have substantial financial support to initiate some programs that will help with our bar pass rate, because it's something that I take very seriously. And you're right. We should be able to expect that if you graduate from here, you can pass the bar. So we're looking at where are we? What can we do? What's the realistic metric that we need to be looking at? All right. Other questions? There's a question about the support we have for those students. And one of the things I think that for all of our diverse students, and one of the things I think that Washburn has always done well is that we support our students. I'm sure all of you know that have spent time here, and we devote a lot of resources to doing that. It's one of the things that makes us us, right? But yes, we were wondering about those sorts of things, not only with regard to diverse students, but with regard to students who are first gen law students. There are, in fact, quite a bit of, oh yeah, and I am going to stop the screen share here so I can see everybody. This is more fun. So there are, I think, quite a bit of programs that we've got in place that we're looking at for helping those students. So, but we are going to continue to look at that. The question is, what areas of law do you want to offer online? So I've got my third year anywhere people looking at the kind of offerings that we have online, and they're going to come back to me to figure out what are the things we really need to be offering to the third year people. Because the big thing that I don't want is, right, for this third year anywhere, when they are taking classes online, I want to be able to give them a selection of classes that will help them actually do the kinds of law that they want to practice. That is, I don't want them to be, hi, so you're doing third year anywhere, you're getting great experience with that externship. By the way, here are the 3 classes you get to pick from, and you're going to have to take all 3, right? And especially in areas that maybe don't interest them. So probably I will say some of the things that we'll be looking at are some specialty classes in the third year, but also some classes that are required bar prep classes that maybe some of them don't end up with in the third year. So that's really what we're going to be trying to look for. Most of the third year anywhere courses we want to be asynchronous. That is, they'll be able to watch them in modules rather than, you know, you can't just throw a class up and say, oh yeah, zoom into it and it'll be fine, right? We want them to be the same, or a good educational experience for our students, because I think that's very important for us. All right, anything else that I can answer? And as I say, if you do have questions for me or anything, or you just want to talk about the law school, it's one of my favorite things in the world to talk about. So please, by all means, let me know, right? I'm never too busy for you guys.
Dean, this is Tom Adrian.
Hey, Tom.
I visited with a Washburn student who told me that she thought that KU built in the cost of the bar exam into their tuition. And the advantage of that was that could, in effect, make it part of either their loan or their cost of going to school, as opposed to a Washburn student that has to come up with the money to enroll in a bar review class. If you've got it already paid for and it's already built into your loan, then the propensity to participate is greater.
You are correct that the KU does do that. And that is one of the programs that we are now looking at. So that's one of the solutions. I don't know that it will be a huge solution,
Right.
In that, you know, all of our students do take a bar prep course, as it turns out. We did the math on that. But you're right, building it in to tuition does in fact enable them to pay for it as they go. And just looking at the data, it turns out that may be a problem for our students. So that's what's kind of pushing me towards looking at that as a solution. So I would expect to hear more about that in the coming months or so, in the next month or two, because it is one of the options that we're considering. All right, anything else I can help you with?
Dean, this is John Bird.
Hi. Hey, John.
I did put a couple questions up, and I think maybe I've got a problem on my end, but it'd be helpful to have a number, and I see Pat, they just sent me one on the annual cost for a student for fees, books, tuition. Looks like it's about 25,000. So
Yes.
we could tell people as we're helping raise funds that if they wanted to fund a student, that's what it would cost.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, so the number, and we have that on our website under the ABA required disclosures. We're required to disclose and post that. But yeah, it is 25, is it 25,634 now or something close to that? That's our in-state tuition, calculating everything else. So that's cost of attendance.
Then on the other thing I was curious about, I know that horse is out of the barn already on the pass rate issue, but does Washburn track the pass rate for its graduates in other states contemporaneously?
Yes, we do.
How do we compare?
We have information for every state in which our people take a bar exam. Now,
So as a conglomerate, then our graduates who did take the test in other states, did they pass at a better rate or a worse rate than they passed in Kansas?
that's a good question, and it's harder to tell because, as I say, about 56% of our graduates end up taking the Kansas bar, and the rest end up pretty widely scattered
Right.
among the other jurisdictions. So we may have only 2 people taking a bar someplace or 1 person taking a bar in another place. So it's really hard to do the
And
rates.
it's self-selected too, so you would expect that somebody doing that.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain
Well,
extent, I don't, so I would assume our rates are generally equal. Kansas's bar pass among the uniform bar states it's not the highest, it's not the lowest, it's in the middle. Missouri is actually lower, so you could theoretically go to Missouri and pass the bar at a lower score, which would not allow you to then transfer it to Kansas, but you could. So basically, but we do keep pretty close tabs on where everything goes. The interesting thing, I think, from this past one, we didn't have any student in the top half of the class fail the bar exam. Right. So literally the entire top 50 passed the bar. So it's not, a situation where you hear that person didn't study and failed the bar. No, and all of our issues were in the bottom half. Not all of them probably in the lowest 20%, but they were in the bottom half. And so I think that's probably why we ran into the issues that we did.
Thank you.
You bet. Other stuff, I don't have meetings till 3, so you guys are golden to ask whatever you want. All right, well, the one thing I do want to again reemphasize is how much I love this school, and I hope to be able to do some very good things here, and I'll probably be depending on everybody to help me with this. So, but I'll do what I can. I've got 2. Okay, we're good. All right. Well, thank you guys ever so much. Patrick, do you want to close it? Or are we good?
I just want to say thanks again, Dean Jackson, for this great update. And thank you so much again for everybody who's joined us on this call. We had close to 90 people at one point, so that's an excellent turnout for a Zoom presentation this day. And encourage everyone to stay involved with all of these things that we are doing, whether in person or via Zoom. And if you'd like to continue to be updated on everything that's going on, this is not going to be a fundraising pitch, but I would encourage you to become a member of the Alumni Association and continue to get all of our communications that are out there. And you can even keep track of things on our handy dandy app. So as they say, there's an app for that. But thanks again to everyone for joining the call, and look forward to seeing and hearing from all of you again soon. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Great to see everybody. Take care.